rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, the Festival of Joy is kicked off, or, well, they're trying to get it kicked off in Chicago. Festival of Joy. So much love, so much joy. Can you feel the joy? I can feel the joy. They're so joyous that they are offering free abortions, which I don't know why that would be a joyful occasion, and free vasectomies, which, yeah, that's another occasion that I can't quite figure out why there would be joy for that. But anyway, they're offering them, and apparently they were being offered by appointments, and the appointments, they got them all filled up. Yeah. Also, too, if you can't feel the joy, you can certainly see the joy in all of the protesters that have broken through. As of last notification, they have broken through the Secret Service barrier because Joe Biden is supposed to speak tonight and get his, grand hoorah, farewell, whatever. And they've already broken through the outer barrier. And I guess there wasn't, at least according to one report, there wasn't even a police officer to be seen. And yes, Becky, I agree. We don't want them to breed. I actually think it's a perfect idea because it just makes for less Democrats down the road. Democrat leftist lunatics down the road. But anyway, so yeah, apparently the protests have already started. They haven't even gotten their first speaker off the ground yet, and they've already broken through the outer fence, which, by the way, Democrats, I thought walls didn't work. Anyway, I just, not only that too, by the way, as well, the Democrats, the DNC also required ID in order to get in. I thought IDs weren't, an effective method for vetting individuals, something like, I don't know, voters, for an example, just as an example. Anyway, I digress. All right, folks, let's get this kicked off. I've got Buddy Weiser from Rumble on tap for tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. So please, if you are of mind, stand, remove your hats, and place your hand over your heart, and let's follow along with Buddy in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
Thank you for that, Buddy. And if you would like to get your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance played here on the program, you can do so by recording yourself and then taking that audio file and emailing it to me at fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans at americanperspective.online, and I'll get you into the rotation. All right, and tonight's sponsor is theflagshirt.com. I am wearing one right now. Take a look. I'm gonna for you audio listeners, it's gonna be a blank second, but that's because I gotta show the back of the shirt. This is just a fantastic Don't Tread on Me shirt. Take a look at this. Look at this. It's got the rattlesnake on the front, and when you turn around, it's got it larger on the backside with Don't Tread on Me down at the bottom. You can't quite see it. It didn't quite come all the way through, but anyway, it is a Don't Tread on Me shirt by theflagshirt.com. You should go and check them out. Go to theflagshirt.com. And by the way, they're running a Labor Day sale right now where you get $20 off when you spend $100 by using the promo code 20, TWENTY, in their promo code box at checkout. So go and check them out. The Labor Day sale, $20 off when you spend $100. And by the way, free shipping on orders of $75 or more, right, at theflagshirt.com. Go to theflagshirt.com. But you know what? If you don't want to get that $75 or that $100 or whatever, I'm going to sweeten the deal for you. I have got you a $5 off coupon. All you have to do is go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. You'll be given a code that you can also put in the promo code box to get $5 off your order. So if you're not looking to like buy a whole bunch of stuff, you can go and check out go and check out their collection and see. I wear them quite often on this show. But you can go and check out theflagshirt.com and get yourself $5 off by going to flagshirt.americanperspective.online and getting that code and putting in at checkout. Go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right. So, let's go ahead and talk. I already mentioned that the protesters, they haven't even gotten things kicked off yet, and the protesters have already broken through the fence. Now, the other thing, too, that's going on, which I didn't necessarily want to toss this in at the front, but apparently Chicago has spent a lot of money and time, because not only did they build this fence around the DNC venue, which, by the way, according to some reports, pissed off the local folks because nobody really told them that they were going to be blocking off streets and things, and it just started happening. And because of that, some of the traffic flow and things like that has all gotten, messed up. Apparently communication by the DNC isn't exactly their strong suit. But anyway, they also, several of the businesses around the area went ahead and boarded up their windows and stuff, expecting the protests, expecting a fiery but peaceful DNC. And yes, I am specifically using that fiery but peaceful for the whole Waukesha and BLM riots and everything else. But anyway, many of the Chicago businesses went and started like boarding up their businesses and getting everything all put together and all of these things. They have had some serious problems. And in fact, let's see, where is this? I got to read about this guy here. Oh, Scott Shapiro, who is the owner of a Sid Jerome menswear store. He went ahead and was fortifying his business, and he was talking to ABC7, which apparently is a local news station there. And he says, as we know, this city has a poor track record when it comes to protecting businesses. And yeah, so his store itself has been looted or vandalized 4 times since 2019. Yeah, the city has a problem with maintaining law and order under their Democrat leadership. So Shapiro said, we felt it was more prudent to board up since our customers and their employees have told them to stay home throughout the convention for their own safety. We know from past experience something could ensue, and so we want to get proactive and get ahead of it. And this is another statement that he told WGN-TV, which that is a local television station there. But anyway, it's pretty sad that they have to do this. But it's those fiery yet peaceful protests that cause all of this problem. And they've already started. I mean, the Secret Service put up the secondary security fence. There was actually a witness to somebody going and clipping off or cutting the Secret Service sign off of the fence and tearing it down. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. The national chair of the U.S. Palestinian Community Network Advocacy Group, his name is Hatim Aboudaye, and I probably mincemeat the pronunciation of that, but he apparently seems oblivious to the concerns of local businesses and residents, where he says, we're not going to do anything different. We're going to mobilize. Yeah, there you go. They're going to mobilize. Oh, yeah, this is just, and it's not just property damage too. Yeah, there's like, they've got all kinds of, well, obviously I already told you President Biden is supposed to speak, and then they have former presidents Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. They're all expected to endorse Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tampon Tim himself, Tim Walz. The who's who of the left-wing politicians responsible for stabbing Biden in the back. I mean, America's current state of affairs, right now. So, oh my gosh, this is going to be interesting. So Chicago is actually hunkering down for what promises to be a turbulent week. One thing is clear: the party of tolerance and peace and, oh, the joy, seems to bring anything but to the cities that it visits. Yeah. Just as a commentary on the two parties, the RNC was actually quite peaceful, quite relaxed, and didn't have these fiery but peaceful protests, didn't have these protesters necessarily, and they didn't cause the city close to the location of the convention to like board up and tell people to run home and stay home and all this other stuff. Didn't do it. Yet they are considered, or trying to be considered, the party of law and order, which we know they're not. We know they're not. Come on. Democrats, law and order, give me a break. So we, as voters and as citizens, we need to actually take a look at the differences between the groups of people who follow one particular party versus following another particular party. And I guarantee you that when you sit there and compare between the two, the Democrat left and the conservatives, there is a huge difference between the two. Huge difference between the two. And if you want the party that truly stands for law, order, and the American way of life, you're gonna vote Republican. I can guarantee it, if you are honest with yourself on all of that. I mean, what city is going to want to like board up their place and get in all kinds of trouble and just, I mean, yeah. Yeah, just horrible. Just horrible. In fact, here, let me just show you a picture of the wonderful centerpiece, 18 feet tall, in the freaking convention center. Now, you know, look, I understand there's a lot of people who, talk about abortion being a problem. I mean, you can go in and argue about abortion. You can argue about pregnancies. You can argue about vasectomies and all these other things. But seriously, a convention, you're going to, I mean, a convention, and you're going to put something like this in the freaking place. Here it is. I know it's kind of covered by the, here, I'll take away the closed captioning for a second so you can see the entire structure, but this is an 18-foot tall IUD. 18-foot tall representation of a intrauterine device, which of course is designed to prevent pregnancy. What the hell? This isn't a freaking gynecologist convention here, people. Well, at least not as far as I know. Of course, the Democrats, they have absolutely no idea how to define what a woman is. So I'm sort of really surprised that they're offering both abortions and vasectomies, because they're not going to know who's going to get what operation, right? I mean, really? Yeah. I'm sorry, but no, I'm not sorry. Forget that. I'm not sorry at all. This is freaking nuts. This is crazy. All right, I got to get this off the screen. It's just sad. Anyway, all right. Well, before the DNC, of course, our wonderful Democratic candidate for president, Kamala Harris, was in Pennsylvania. And she and Walz went to Pennsylvania. And you know what? They actually let her off the freaking teleprompter for this one. I am shocked. Now, granted, she didn't take, it wasn't like an actual interview. It wasn't an actual interaction with the press. It was more of a speech, but they let her get off the teleprompter. And what ensued was, I'll let you guys kind of decide here what ensued. So, let's just go ahead and take a listen to Kamala Harris trying to describe and talk about democracy.
And that's what our election is about. Our election is about understanding the importance of this beautiful country of ours in terms of what we stand for around the globe as a democracy. As a democracy, we know there's a duality to the nature of democracy. On the one hand, incredible strength when it is intact. What it does for its people to protect and defend their rights, their liberty, and their freedom. Incredibly strong and incredibly fragile.
Can I ask a question? Did anybody understand what she was talking about there? The democracies, they're incredibly strong and yet incredibly fragile. Democracies. Yeah. What the hell was she even talking about? Now, see, this is exactly why. This honestly is exactly why. And I apologize for those on the video portion of the program. I tried to get the video up. Obviously, I seem to have a little bit of a technical difficulty here getting the video up. So we're just going to be dealing with audio for the moment. But the thing about it is that I mean, her word salads. I tell you, her word salads are just incredible. And seriously, all Trump has to do, and I'm telling you this, I also mentioned this on X, by the way, when somebody was asking, what does Trump need to do? And I said simply this: he needs to focus on just one thing and one thing only, her policies. That's it. Just forget all of this other crap that he sometimes goes off tangent about, okay? Just focus on her and focus on her policies, or lack thereof. Talk about the things that she's believed in the past. Talk about the stuff. I mean, you could even play clips like this at his rallies. You could just play these clips over and over and over again, and you wouldn't have a problem with this. Now, there is some suggestion. Thank you, Bam. Bam over on Rumble says, she's drunk. Now, there is a rumor running around that she actually has some sort of a, shall we say, a drinking problem. And there was even one suggestion that she might have been mixing medicine with alcohol. I don't know how true that is, honestly. But I can tell you one thing. That is her typical mode of operation. And I've told you on this program before that I've experienced this with others who believe that they are smarter than they actually are. And when they do, when they speak, they put together these diatribes of long-sounding and, extremely like, oh, this word's an intelligent-sounding word. I've got to use this. And they put it in their conversation, and it doesn't fit because they don't fully quite understand the actual meaning of the word and its usage. And they tend to speak in circles and repeat themselves over and over and over again. I mean, this is classic of an individual who literally has no answer. And I can't remember who it was who said this, but it's sort of like that fifth grader who's been asked to speak on a book report or do a spoken book report in front of the class, who hasn't even read the material yet and is, read the back of the book on the way in to school. Okay. And sits here and talks about the book, even though they've never really read it and they don't understand it. Now, after her appearances, or a couple of her appearances, because they did this in a bus, they did this on a bus tour. Okay. So, and they had like 2 buses and they had them all like decked out or vinyl wrapped, Biden, Harris, so on and so forth. And they even staged, yes, they staged a snack stop. Now, this was supposed to be in like some, I think Sheetz is a common thing back east, back in Pennsylvania. But anyway, they did this stop in this Sheetz. And they acted like it was supposed to be, totally unscripted. She stopped her bus, she jumped off the bus, and she went inside this gas station mini mart store. And it just came off as like seriously cringe because, and a lot of people didn't realize this, there's actually 2 clips that are floating around about this thing. The first clip was with her husband getting a bag of Doritos, and he has it in his hand. Okay. And Kamala Harris turns around, looks for her husband. Dougie is who she calls him. And she's like, "Oh, Dougie, where's the Doritos?" And he goes, "Oh, here you are, dear." And he's got this thing of Doritos and he hands it over to her. Right. Well, then the second part of the video, or the second clip that's running around, is a staged situation with her husband, Dougie, and Tim Walz is on the opposite or in another aisle, the chip aisle, as it turns out. And she's walking through and she's like looking around. She's in the candy aisle with her husband, Dougie. And she's walking down the aisle toward the camera. And Tim Walz grabs a bag, the exact same freaking sized bag of Doritos that we just saw in the other clip where Dougie handed it over to Kamala. And he like picks it up and sort of does this. I mean, it's not like normal walking. It's kind of like he's doing this little, joyous, because of course you got to feel the joy. So this joyous hopping. And he goes and he hands it over to Kamala over the top of the divider between them. Well, when she grabs that, and if you see this clip, I'm telling you, take a look at this, because Sean Parnell on Battleground Live had this clip and pointed this out. And I didn't even think about it at first. But when she grabs the bag of Doritos from Tim, and it's not that she's looking for corn nuts, and he hands her Doritos. But anyway, she grabs the bag of Doritos and she's trying to make it seem like it was totally natural. And she kind of like looks like, well, that's not what I asked for. But she takes the bag anyway. And as it comes down, the camera pans down and you can see that Dougie, her husband, right behind her, has the exact same freaking bag of Doritos still in his freaking hand. So whoever set that up, I mean, whoever freaking set that up was not paying attention. It's sort of like, for an example, in the Dukes of Hazzard, there was one scene where one of the prop guys forgot or didn't notice that there was a coffee cup sitting on the hood of the General Lee. And the scene is that they're driving the General Lee, but the coffee cup's not moving or flying off or anything like that. It's like the prop guy screwed up. Anyway, So yeah, I mean, this is like, it's all fake. Now, I never expected them to like jump out and actually walk into a Sheetz. I mean, the Secret Service would have gone absolute apeshit over that. Just because of the fact that you don't know who's inside, even though it's a unscheduled stop and chances are there wouldn't be anything there. It really doesn't. I mean, and also too, I'm hearing, although I haven't actually seen this, but I'm hearing, and Amy Jean Viner over on Rumble says this, how about clearing out the restaurant and then bussing in patrons for the photo ops? Yeah, I've heard about that. I haven't actually seen, I've only seen a photo. I haven't actually seen like anything from it, but okay, just to play devil's advocate here and get to the reality of the situation, because that's what you guys like about me, is that I'm real, I'm honest. Nothing, whether it's Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Obama, Bush, any of them, none of those particular situations are ever completely unscripted. It's like reality TV, where reality TV is supposed to look like reality, but it actually isn't reality. It's all scripted for the cameras, because that's exactly what they do. I mean, you have to understand that they, as security, you would have to go in and clear the entire restaurant. You have to vet whoever's there and so on and so forth. So, you know, none of these things are supposed to be, just spontaneous. Like the whole thing with Obama stopping by and getting a lemonade when he did, you know, that whole situation when it came out, none of it is unscripted. I'm telling you right now, everything is taken care of. It is watched. They have to. So for this to be that way, but at least Obama could play it off. I mean, he was a good enough actor that he could play it off as it being like unscripted. These two are just, they're horribly bad. Oh, they're horribly bad at the whole thing. And I mean, even Biden was like, anyway. So yeah, it's just a mess. It's a total mess. Well, anyway, the other video that I have here, which, I mean, you're only going to hear the audio portion of it, I think, because let me see if I can actually see if it'll show up this time. Let's see. Ah, there we go. Yeah, okay, you guys will probably see it now. But the other video that I have is a reporter as Kamala's getting ready to get on the bus. A reporter actually gets a question put to her, and she responds to it extemporaneously. Now, I want you, the clip and the audio isn't that great, so I'm going to give you what the question was. The question was essentially with regards to her economic plan, her economic agenda. How does she plan on paying for it? Take a listen to her answer to this.
You unveiled your economic policies last week.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you're going to pay for those? And can you give us a sense of what other policies you want to unveil going forward?
Sure. Well, I mean, you just look at it in terms of what we are talking about, for example, around children and the child tax credit and extending the EITC. It's at $6,000 for the first year of a child's life. The return on that investment in terms of what that will do and what it will pay for will be tremendous. We've seen it when we did it in the first year of our administration. We reduced child poverty by over 50%. So that's a lot of the work. And then what we're doing in terms of the tax credits, we know that there's a great return on that investment. And when we increase home ownership in America, what that means in terms of increasing the tax base, not to mention property tax base, what that does to fund schools, again, return on investment. I think it's a mistake for any person who talks about public policy to not critically evaluate how you measure the return on investment. When you are strengthening neighborhoods, strengthening communities, and in particular the economy of those communities, and investing in a broad-based economy, everybody benefits, and it pays for itself.
Okay. So just do me a favor. First of all, I apologize. I'm freaking apparently dying here when it comes to the technology. Forgot to turn it on. But seriously, can somebody explain to me what the hell she just said? I mean, I know she used return on investment, ROI a couple times. She said, when you look at the policies, that, does any of that answer the question of how are you going to pay for it? I mean, all she talked about was providing the tax credits, which according to all Democrats, tax cuts and tax credits, those kinds of things do nothing but add to the deficit, which is true. It does. But what they don't tell you, of course, is that it actually increases revenues when that happens. But she's sitting there. She was asked the question, how are you going to pay for this? And she's talking about return on investment. That doesn't tell me where the money's coming from. That doesn't tell me how you are going to seriously provide for these tax credits, the $25,000 that you want to hand over to new homeowners. Now, granted, I mean, the $6,000 for the child tax credit, I mean, that's one thing. And realistically, they should just be handing the money back no matter what, because I know for a fact that I can spend that money more efficiently than the government can. But when it comes to the debates, this is going to be extremely interesting, because I'll bet you, in fact, I would almost even put this down into like an actual bet, but I would bet you that when she's asked the question from the moderators, it doesn't even matter who the moderator is going to be. But when you put out a question like that in front of her, she is not going to be able to answer. She's going to sit there. And again, somebody gave her the word of the day or the phrase of the day, which in this particular case was return on investment. And she's just going to repeat it over and over and try to mash it all together into some semblance of a run-on sentence paragraph that will make her sound and feel like she is highly intelligent, because not a single word out of that word salad that she just gave actually answered the question. I mean, yeah, it's totally incoherent. In fact, I got that clip out of Town Hall, which the author basically wrote, I can't transcribe it because it's incoherent, but it's something about earned income child tax credits and some magical theory about how things pay for themselves. Yeah. Oh, she also threw in the idea that somehow it's going to reduce child poverty by like 50%. Anyway, I just, this is just going to be, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to shift gears from Kamala and, of course, Tim Walz, which, that's just, I've been banging on them for quite some time anyway. And I probably will do so in the future. But let's be completely honest. Actually, this kind of tangentially connects to Kamala Harris. Let's be completely honest. The more we find out about Kamala Harris and the more we find out about Tim Walz, it makes us want to vote less for them. At least those of us who aren't morons. Because remember my tagline, only morons vote Democrat. But all of that being said, even Biden's former chief of staff is saying that Kamala Harris's vice presidency was a failure. Think I'm lying? Well, this is coming from Red State. Let me go ahead and get that up. I'm going to try not to screw that up. All right, there it is. Biden's former chief of staff admits Kamala Harris' vice presidency was a failure. So Ron Klain, okay, was I guess talking to somebody or whatever, and they ended up doing a article or a piece in the New York Times headline on Sunday, And the piece was titled "A Vice Presidential Learning Curve: How Kamala Harris picked her shots." Now, after, of course, going through the first paragraph, because let's be honest, many of these pieces bury the information further down. But apparently, after you go through the first paragraph describing how Harris was deliberate and disciplined, despite many pitfalls she's faced as the first female vice president. I seem to recall things coming out of the White House saying that she didn't even attend her own briefings for things. But anyway, Ron Klain apparently is down further in the piece. And of course, the New York Times is behind a paywall, so I have to go with whatever Red State is telling us about this. But the New York Times kind of buried it down that Ron Klain acknowledged that Harris was not always well served by the White House. We were all, and this is his quote, "We were all united behind the idea that she should be successful. We just didn't find the path to do it." We were all behind the idea, all united, behind the idea that she should be successful. Well, that's great. I would love to be united behind the idea that my dog can actually fly. But no matter what I do, he's not going to do it unless, of course, I pick him up and throw him, in which case it's not flying, it's technically being thrown. So, of course, there was no way to find a path to get her to do it. Now, this part, I am seriously, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this, that he even said this. Mr. Klain added that people really like her. Mr. Klain, a 92% overturn in your office, and this is the people that worked under you in a matter of 3 years. Yeah, that's not people who like her. People don't really like Kamala Harris, folks. They don't. Now, he also said there is a lot of enthusiasm for her, and I don't think we did a good enough job of selling her. Oh, the places I could go with that statement. Anyway, nobody likes her. Nobody likes her at all. And, honestly, that particular assessment makes Klain, Biden, and Harris, all of them, look incompetent, which, yeah. So, yeah. Now, she was also reportedly, now this is, okay, for those of you who seem to think that, Joe Biden loved Kamala Harris and that, Joe Biden was like just on the Kamala Harris train and that she wasn't necessarily saddled with him in the beginning, here's something that came out that might be a little interesting. Okay, now keep in mind, Biden is only interested in Biden. So when Biden would be faced with something that he knew he couldn't handle, he would pass it off to somebody else, obviously sharing the blame. And that continued in this piece in the New York Times, because apparently, a quote, "But she was also saddled with no-win assignments, most notably tackling the root causes of illegal immigration from Central America. Stung by an early television interview that went awry, she became skittish about making mistakes, asking whether an appearance or a line in a speech might produce another vicious viral clip. And her allies believed the president's staff often clipped her wings, appropriating her initiatives for him to announce without building up her own public profile." Yeah. Right. So apparently she seems to be a little sensitive about some of the clips that are running around. And believe me, we've got plenty of them. We've got plenty of clips of her being essentially exposing her stupidness. But anyway, so yeah, there's so many clues in here. I just don't even, oh my gosh. I just, Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's so sad when you read something like this and you read some of the clips out of it. I'm telling you, it just gives you so much of a look, outsider's look, a window into what is essentially a train wreck of a presidency. And in that particular case, I'm talking about Biden's presidency, but she was there along the way. I mean, she was there completely along the way. And so this kind of scenario just, I'm just telling you, we just have to wait. You know, for all of the people who are looking at, for all of the people that are looking at things like the polls that are coming in today that are showing that Harris is, you know, beating Donald Trump. First of all, you need to understand that most of those polls are within the margin of error. Not all of them, but most of them are within the margin of error. And don't get me wrong, this is going to be a battle. This is going to be a very close race. So we can't just sit on our laurels and think, you know, that everything is just hunky-dory either way, because this is going to be a very close race. And we have to be aware and cognizant of that fact. But at the same time, though, all we really need to do is wait. Believe me, if you think the Biden debate with Donald Trump was the end of his career, which, I mean, political career, which it was, going and looking directly at this matchup between Trump and Harris, that one's going to be a doozy. That one's going to be a doozy. I'm going to have to do a watch party on that one for sure. All right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit and let's slide over to good old Mr. Joe Biden. Yes. That House probe has finally concluded. And that House probe has concluded with a 291-page report that clearly lays out the entire string of evidence that they have against Joe Biden and his corruption. Now, the thing about it is here, though, and I've told you this on this program, it's not so much that anything is going to come about on this. We have less than, 5 months, 4 months, something like that with the presidency. I honestly don't think that they'll move forward with any kind of impeachment. He's not running for office again. They already know that he's not running the American government. We already know that. So really, the reality of this whole thing is not so much in regards to the Joe Biden presidency. But what it does do is it vindicates and verifies everything that talk show hosts such as myself and several others. I mean, Dan Bongino's been following this for a very long time. He's even written books about it. Miranda Devine wrote a book about it and was ostracized for her articles in the New York Post when the things first came out. But you need to understand that this is just a demonstration. I mean, all this does is this is just a continuing vindication of everything that all of us in the conservative movement who have been telling people about Joe Biden. It just continues that as far as that goes. So here, now granted, this isn't just the news, but I do have a link in the show notes, in the description of the videos. That's where the show notes are, where you can go and get to the actual document for itself. But the House probe concludes that Joe Biden committed impeachable offenses by helping to enrich his family. So here's some of the key points. Number one was that the Biden family received more than $27 million from foreign sources. Now, remember, okay, so far, Hunter Biden has not, and actually his brother, Jim Biden, neither one of them have been charged with violating the Foreign Agent Registration Act, known as FARA. This information like this can kick stuff out in terms of additional criminal charges for Hunter and Jim and potentially others in the Biden family. So not so much Joe, but they could provide some backup in order to, let's say, kick the tires and kick things loose in the Hunter Biden trial, which is still coming up. It's supposed to start in September. Now, so far, they've been saying that they are not going to charge Hunter Biden with any FARA violations. However, stuff like this could put a little bit of pressure on David Weiss in particular to go ahead and charge the man with FARA violations. So, I mean, we already knew that he was corrupt. We already knew the sources are going to happen. We already knew all of that. I mean, none of this is really surprising to anyone who might have been watching this program or any of the other conservative podcasters that are out there, because we've kept it in the limelight. And the reason being is, of course, because of the fact we all knew what was going on with this. Okay? But Biden's status, here's point number 2. Biden's status as vice president was a selling point. Yeah. Yep, that was exactly right. He did it's influence peddling. That's essentially what they were doing, is influence peddling. Now, don't forget, I told you about that letter that was surfaced here not too long ago with Hunter Biden, where Hunter Biden actually reached out to the embassy in Italy to help him while he was on the board of Burisma, and to attempt to kind of instigate something with the vice president and the White House and the federal government and so on and so forth. Anyway, he was asking for help is what it was. So anyway, yeah. The Biden name itself, and this is another point, the Biden name itself used to obtain $8 million in loans from Democrat donors. So again, this is all like, hey, this is my, okay, wait a minute. Oh, holy smokes. Sorry. That's my auto. That's the new camera that I've got. Come on, respond here. The new camera, somehow my gestures, because it's gesture driven, my gestures will make it zoom in or zoom out sometimes. There we go. Now it goes out. Thanks for that. Bonnie over on Rumble was pointing out, okay, Rick is freaking me out being so close to the camera. I have to watch my gestures now. This really sucks. Anyway, that might be something that I might want to consider else times. But anyway, all right. So back to this. The Biden name was used to obtain $8 million in loans from the Democrat Party. So anyway, he was using the Biden family was using Joe Biden's position of public trust to obtain over $8 million in loans for the donors. And no, Coco, you are not going to check my nostrils. I don't need to have my nostrils looked at. Thank you. Now this particular one in particular, or this particular point, I'm just going to tell you, is important. The importance of this is just, I mean, again, if you don't believe that there is a two-tier justice system here in America, this point is going to point it out. The Justice Department granted favorable treatment to Hunter Biden. And this is true. The IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, they brought it to light when they were talking about it in the public hearing of the House Oversight Committee. I mean, this is nothing new to anybody who's been paying attention to this, but definitely illustrates the entire situation. So, yeah. So even the whistleblower's frustrations, where the assistant attorney, Leslie Wolf, intervened to stop a search warrant at Joe Biden's Delaware home over optics concerns, despite admitting that there was probably evidence at the location, Shapley testified. Yeah. So, like I said, this report doesn't really surprise anybody who's been following this. And here's the report, by the way. Here it is right here. All you really have to read, honestly, is just the executive summary, and it kind of tells you pretty much everything in the whole thing. But you can take a look at the whole report. You can download it. You can do whatever you want with it. It is a PDF. But it's yeah. I mean, it doesn't really tell us anything new that we didn't already know, but it certainly shows once again that conspiracy theories turned into spoiler alerts. All right, so one of the critiques that the Trump campaign has gotten from this entire situation here, with regards to the whole Trump campaign, because for a while there, Trump was only doing, a couple of pressers from Mar-a-Lago. He seemed to be taking a break. And they were essentially, the left was like, oh my gosh, he can't handle it. He can't handle the pressure, and so on and so forth. But what ended up happening realistically was Vance went on a series of interviews with some friendly, mostly unfriendly places. And Donald Trump even did an interview or two, or a couple press conferences and things like that. Well, now, report is that Trump and Vance are going to barnstorm the battleground states this week during the DNC. And the reason being is because of the fact that, and I guess my volume is off over on Facebook. Interesting. So anyway, the interesting thing about this, of course, is that it is during the DNC, and also it follows after Kamala Harris and Tampon Tim have gone through them. So this is going to be interesting to see in terms of the differences. Not that I really care, because let's be honest, most of the time Republicans have jobs, and so they don't necessarily go off onto rallies and things like that, because we do have other things going on in our lives. But it will be kind of interesting to sort of see if there's a comparison between the Kamala Harris campaign stop sizes, or the rally sizes, versus these Donald Trump or Vance rally sizes. But they released a plan yesterday to barnstorm battleground states, and of course called out the failed record of Kamala Harris, which is essentially true. On Monday, Trump is supposed to hold an event focused on economic energy in York, Pennsylvania. He already did that. Vance will host an event in Philadelphia with the same theme. Tuesday brings events focused on crime and safety, with Trump holding one in Detroit and Vance holding another in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Then Trump and Vance will unite on Wednesday to host a national security event in Asheboro, North Carolina. On Thursday, Trump is slated to host an immigration event in Montezuma Pass, Arizona, and Vance is going to be in Valdosta, Georgia, at the same time to hold a similar event. We also have, on Friday, Trump is going to be in Glendale, Arizona, and a no tax on tips event in Las Vegas. So he's going to pick that up. So yeah, anyway, so that's the plan, at least according to this Daily Wire piece. So that's the plan, for the Trump and Vance campaign. Now, if you don't think that the suppression is happening still, I mean, why anybody is, even in today's day and age, why anybody would actually talk about and even discriminate against one political party or another is beyond me, because of the fact that they are, shall we say, it's very prevalent or obvious when it happens and when it occurs. But I saw this piece in the New York Post, which kind of makes me a little concerned, but not really too surprised necessarily. But apparently, this, and I'll go ahead and show you, this fan went to Citi Field. And this fan who went to Citi Field is a New York Republican. She was wearing, and she was actually with a group of people, by the way. And she was wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Now, anybody that's on the video portion of the program, you guys can see the picture of Audra Moody, who is 64. She's wearing that Great America, Make America Great Again hat. And apparently she was with a group of other like-minded individuals who also apparently had some gear on too. They were stopped going into, now this is after they had passed through security, by the way. They were reportedly stopped by an employee of Citi Field and told to remove their gear, their Make America Great Again gear, that they were not allowed inside with their Trump gear on. Now, of course, this is, at this point, this is kind of uncorroborated at the moment, but it appears that they sent a complaint off to Citi Field and the ownership of... Anyway, I'm not sure what they were going to the event for, but they essentially sent off a request, several requests, and were sort of stonewalled, but then finally said, here, fill this out. This is an online complaint form. And so anyway, the whole point of the story is that both Moody and Taisha, who was with her, they took their hats off because they were worried about inconveniencing the rest of their group who were already in their seats. The staffer also refused, now this is the kicker, the staffer also refused to let them keep their hats in their bags. So the two women were forced to call a friend of theirs who they had carpooled with down there in order to put the hats back in the vehicle. I mean, this is like serious high level stuff. And so, and for those on the audio portion of the program, Audra Moody is black. So anyway, she apparently she took a photo of herself in the MAGA gear with the Citi Field in the background. You saw that earlier, for the evidence of the incident. She accused the venue of political discrimination. And she mentioned that after the hats were stored in the car and they finally made their way back to their seats, that they turned around and they could see other people wearing MAGA gear. So the question has to be, why was she necessarily targeted? Now, she also claims that she did not see any Kamala Harris or Joe Biden merch on display within the venue, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, that's a huge venue, so not everybody is going to necessarily have it. But anyway, so yeah, the things are getting real. Now the Mets, who is she, I guess, went to play. The Mets attributed the situation to an employee making a mistake in the organization's attire policy and stated that they had an intention to apologize to Moody. The team said in a statement on Saturday, a Mets employee was mistaken about our attire policy. We are reaching out to Audra Moody to apologize and invite her back to the ballpark. So this happened on Wednesday, by the way. Moody, of course, said that only deepens her support. The whole incident only deepens her support for the Republican Party and Donald Trump. With a quote, she said, "I just want the American people to wake up." That is true. We all just want the American people to wake up and understand that a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for Marxism, socialism, communism, because socialism and communism is downstream from Marxism. Alrighty, folks, before I leave you today, I was watching a video And I hadn't seen this. Apparently, well, I don't know if anybody realizes, anybody that's not into country music probably won't know, but there was a gentleman by the name of Toby Keith. He'd been shunned a lot. He was a superstar. I am a big fan of his music. And he unfortunately passed from, I believe it was cancer, stomach cancer, not that long ago. But there was a benefit or a memorial concert. And Trace Adkins, who is another country superstar that I really enjoy, he was there, and he mentioned something that I think I am going to potentially tie in honor of Toby Keith. And this was something that Toby Keith said, apparently, according to Trace Adkins, said at the end of every single one of his concerts. So in honor of Toby Keith, I would like to continue the tradition. And at the end of the show, I essentially want to tell everyone who watches this program, never apologize for being patriotic. And of course, I'm paraphrasing maybe a little bit, but never apologize for being patriotic. All right, folks, that is it for me tonight. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, find yourself an account, sign up. It is free. And make sure you hit that, you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that follow button. Also, if you're already signed into Rumble and haven't done so already, smash that thumbs up button. That's the Rumble button, the like button. We need that. I need that in order to get onto the leaderboard someday. Also, too, make sure you hit the likes and various buttons and everything else on all my other outlets, too. I do appreciate all of that. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.